New details on the San Bernardino shooters, including a look inside their home and what the FBI found. Then, the Dean Skelos corruption trial coming to a head as some big names take the stand. Our Dominic Carter live in Lower Manhattan, covering it wire to wire. And yes, Donald Trump at it again, now insulting a whole new group of people. We're going to tell you who the Donald unloaded on this time and the fallout from that. Hello and good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on RFL. I'm Richard French. Now, as investigators look for a motive into the San Bernardino shooting that killed 14 people, the FBI is releasing new information on the shooters, including the woman's possible terrorist ties. Brandy Hitt has more from San Bernardino.
They're shooting at us from the SUV, eastbound on Richardson. Responding in, brought your crossfire.
An attack inspired by ISIS. Sources tell ABC News the wife of Saeed Farouk, Tashfeen Malik, pledged her allegiance to ISIS on social media using an alias just minutes into the attack.
We are now investigating these horrific acts as an act of terrorism.
The FBI, though, says it has no evidence yet that ISIS directed Wednesday's attack on Farouk's colleagues that left 14 people dead.
We are going through a very large volume of electronic evidence. This is electronic evidence that these killers tried to destroy and tried to conceal from us.
New video from inside the killer's home shows it ransacked by authorities. Clothes and personal items left behind, a crib for their 6-month-old daughter. They also left some 6,100 rounds of ammunition and 12 unexploded bombs in their garage.
They were all friends with the man that did this, and even though they knew he was Muslim, they had no idea that he had become radicalized.
At a vigil Thursday, thousands gathered to remember the victims, their ages ranging from 60 to just 26. Daniel Kaufman was among them.
The world will suffer from having one less person like him.
The FBI says there's no indication these killers were part of a large organized terror cell, but agents have long warned about ISIS's online campaign, encouraging people overseas and here at home to kill. Brandy Hitt, ABC News, San Bernardino, California.
Okay, Brandy, now the shooters used assault rifles and they had thousands of rounds of ammunition in their home. Also reports they wore body armor during the assault here, the tactical clothing you see there and the guns you saw before. Now, the scary thing is, so far, it seems everything was purchased completely legal here. Now, the same thing can be said here for armor-piercing bullets, not used in the tragedy we saw in California, but nonetheless, if you want to buy them, you can. And the only reasons to have them, as the police tell us, is to penetrate vests worn by cops. Again, this legal to buy in America. Now, that's the state of things as we speak to you tonight. Now, here's something else that's pretty telling about the country: guns. Ulster County Sheriff, and if you don't know where that is, that's in the Hudson Valley, the northern portion of the Hudson Valley in New York. Well, the county sheriff is getting national attention for telling gun owners in his county to not only, if you have it, carry it when they leave the home. And our own Andrew Whitney spoke with the sheriff yesterday.
My opinion that if I was in a situation like just happened out in California, I would wish that I had a firearm on me, and I'd be happy if another citizen had a firearm on them.
It sounds like you're basically putting people into a highly charged, stressful, worried environment to act as an armed militia or an armed law enforcement militia. Is that a misread?
No, I don't see it that way. These people have, they are licensed permit holders, and I'm just reminding them that they have the right to carry that firearm if they so desire. It's a personal choice.
Sheriff, how many people are legally licensed to carry firearms in Ulster County?
A little over 10,000.
And you're okay with the potential of your deputies patrolling the county with an additional 10,000 guns on the hips or with a bulge in the coat pocket on the streets of Ulster County? You think that increases the safety of the county and of your deputies?
Well, I think you're over-exaggerating a little bit. I don't think we'll have 10,000 people that decide that they want to carry a handgun at any given time. But I know if the you-know-what hit the fan, our deputies would be glad to have a civilian come to their aid.
Okay, a lot to unpack here. Let's bring in our panel to discuss. Republican strategist Bill O'Reilly joins us, and Scott Vanderhoff as well. Scott, an attorney and a former 5-term Rockland County executive. Before we get into what the sheriff had to say, and even what they found in the home and some of the inevitable questions, I think you said it, Bill. What is this country coming to?
What's going on? I can't tell you how many times I've been on your show, and I'm grateful to be on, and the topic has been guns for a reason, because there's been another shooting. I mean, it's a dozen, more than that. I mean, it's just what's going on, whether it's American citizens, you know, as a terrorist act or as just civilians going nuts. What is going on?
You know, Scott, the only commonality with this, we've seen this in suburbs, we've seen this in cities, we've seen this in rural areas, pick an area of the country. I mean, there's no favorites here, unfortunately, or whatever. It's a crazy person. I don't care if it's religious zealotry, if it's about politics, if it's about workplace anger, whatever. It's a mentally unhinged person with way too much firepower and way too much bad intentions. And that's the only common thread to all this. I had law enforcement with us yesterday, a 20-plus year veteran of the NYPD, and I said, this must be now, this is part of the handbook that you cops have to go. He goes, absolutely. We have to do now tactical training, like we're a paramilitary outfit. And it's one thing if you're the NYPD, but now you're in Rockland, right? Or you're going to small areas around this country that don't have this wherewithal. But if it can happen into an office center, you know, in San Bernardino, California, or a school in Newtown, Connecticut, or, you know, a Planned Parenthood, fill in the blank here, it's such a sad state of affairs that it's kind of a new normal.
It's horrible. It's horrific, and we don't want to become so overwhelmed by this that we become blind to what has to be done. And you know, the problem is that everything's a soft target. Malls, I mean, everything's a soft target, and that's anywhere in the United States. And you're right, a lot of it has to do with people who just flip mental healths. Something has to be done about guns. I'm sorry, Congress, the Republican Congress is wrong about that. I mean, there's got to be some sort of way to weed out those individuals who might want to cause harm.
Let me ask you, Scott, because you have an interesting constituency or had in Rockland, which is, probably more Republicans than Democrats, but it's a mix, right? In terms of registration, more Democrats than Republicans, I'm sorry. But certainly you have a lot of law enforcement that call Rockland home. To me, I think sometimes we try and bite too much of the apple all at the same time. And I understood why after Newtown, I was one of those people to say, let's have seismic changes to gun laws. But isn't there some stuff we can all agree on? And I'm curious. I'm going to list 3 things that if you went back to your constituents in Rockland, I know that's not how it works, so you do it on a county by county basis, but said, okay, those assault weapons, like what we saw that they had, we don't need that. My cops don't even have this, right? People walking down the street shouldn't have these assault weapons. And please don't bore me with the modifications you can do with the guns and all that stuff. The second thing is, why do people need body armor? Exactly why do regular citizens, when we couldn't even equip our own soldiers when they went to Iraq when the start of the last war there, we couldn't even give it to our guys. Why are we selling that? And why do we sell bullets that are armor-piercing bullets? Without even going into all the other things, and I think there's more to do here. Is that something that you think the general public would be like, I'm with you, Scott?
I think I think Rockland would be. I think, you know, the fear, which I think is those real conservatives, is if you start to eat away at the apple, it's going to be gone. And suddenly now, you know, guns, Second Amendment is torn apart. I don't think it has to be that way. And I think there are ways to, and there must be. There's got to be something done here to do better than we're doing. If anybody disagrees with that, I'd like to have them call on your show and tell us, you can't just constantly go on like this. And I wouldn't know how to get, you know, for example, a vest like that, that however they got it, and that, by the way, that's a whole nother question. Where did they get it?
I'm sure you just go online and
you can, and it's legal.
They didn't buy it.
But there's 2 choices we have. I think people overcomplicate this. There's 2 choices we have in the aftermath, and every sane person says the date lines where you have more than one mass shooting on average per day in this country. That's where 4 people are shot in one shooting incident. We're averaging and pacing more than 1 a day. Either you make everything hard targets where you beef it up, where you can't get on a train anymore, you can't walk into a mall anymore, you can't go into a grocery store without going through a metal detector and all the rest. And who's bearing all those costs? That's a separate question.
Right.
or you do something about the prevalence of guns and the ease in which we're going to get some of them. I'm not talking about a 22, but you heard the police chief there. Now, I understood where maybe instinctively people say it makes sense, okay? But I got examples of in a Home Depot, somebody swiped something off the shelves. A person carrying a gun, this isn't hypothetical, this happened. She didn't like the idea of somebody she thought was a shoplifter, so she got in a firing position and started shooting at him.
Yeah.
You don't want to arm the general public and have them play policemen. Our police and law enforcement are trained. People might give them a hard time, sometimes justifiably so, but they're professionals. We don't want everybody here to strap on a sidearm here and take the law in their own hands.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Everyone's got to take a deep breath here. And I think for the gun rights advocates, and I work with many of them, their point is that there are so many laws. California has the strictest laws in the country, California and New York, and still this happens. And their argument is these laws don't really affect anything.
Enforce the laws in the books, but I just spoke to Senator Blumenthal about this yesterday, and I said, hey, a lot of colleagues are already saying, time out here. This was bad case makes bad law. In San Bernardino, they seem to at least legally be able to get this. But his point is, look in Connecticut, we got tough laws, but guns are coming up. There are other states that don't have the same. If we don't all share the same database, what's the point? It has to be, you know, this. It has to be national.
Yeah. And like cop killing bullets, I think we should all be able to agree on cop killing bullets. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you there.
How is that a debate in this? Or a terror watch list?
Right.
Explain to me.
Completely agree with you.
We couldn't even get a vote on that in the Senate.
Yeah.
Explain to me how somebody, we're not going to let them get on a plane, but we're going to let them legally buy a gun.
Even if the watch list makes a mistake, like that, it's a right.
So don't let Ted Kennedy, the late Ted Kennedy, buy a gun. That was the
until it gets cleared up. Right. I'm fine with that. But you know, I can more understand the ISIS-inspired attacks than the American citizen attacks. I mean, I think ISIS is trying to drive a wedge between American Muslims and the rest of Americans and get some civil war going, which ain't happening in this country. But I think that's their notion. They're trying to do it in Europe as well. But the lone wolf American that goes in and shoots up the classroom, I mean, that just...
I got a lot to get to. I want to with you guys, but just really quickly, do you think this is going to be an election issue in 2016, or do you think that this is so polarizing, politicians do it at their own peril?
You know,
it seems there's a consensus about something. I can't define what it is, but I think Americans believe that some things are going on that don't make sense.
Well, I mean, I think most of them believe in background checks, and including the issue of whether you're on a terrorist list or not, or potentially. And it should be. I mean, we should. And it's not the Obama approach. There's got to be a middle approach which talks about a reasonable way to approach this, like taking certain things that simply are not needed for citizenry, okay, and keeping them off the market. But again, you also, you don't want to get to the other extreme, which is the Ulster County extreme, where everybody go out and having guns and playing, the West. Right. That's not going to work.
And I'll tell you, I know we hit a break. To me, the messenger, I said this last night, is almost, if not more important than the message. It can't be Obama. It can't be Michael Bloomberg. It can't be Nancy Pelosi. It's got to be cops. Cops got to go out, and I said this to a law enforcement yesterday, fraternal order police and the rest have to start saying enough. This is where our line, we believe, should be. And then let the public make up their mind. Okay, when we come back here, we're going to stay within New York, where the Skelos trial getting even more interesting now that some high-profile witnesses take the stand. Now there's new calls to reform Albany after the Silver conviction. We're going to talk to Zephyr Teachout to discuss her plan on what to do. And trust me, she doesn't have a lot of sympathy for the governor right now, saying he, in effect, is part of the problem.